The Serengeti stretched before him like a golden ocean, waves of tall grass swaying in the morning breeze. Mr. Makonde's weathered hands gripped the steering wheel of his patrol vehicle, the familiar contours fitting perfectly into palms that had held this same position for over 5 decades. Though officially retired, the 73-year-old former head ranger couldn't bear to abandon his life's calling. The reserve was more than his workplace. It was his home, his purpose, his very heartbeat. "Just one more patrol," he would tell his wife each morning, the corners of his eyes crinkling with the smile that had charmed her 50 years ago. The staff welcomed his continued presence, his encyclopedic knowledge of the reserve's ecosystem proving invaluable even to the younger, university-trained rangers. The radio crackled with the day's weather report. Extreme heat warning in effect. Temperatures expected to reach 45 degrees Celsius by midday. All personnel advised to limit outdoor activities. Mr. Makonde clicked his tongue dismissively. The animals couldn't seek air-conditioned shelter, so neither would he. His thoughts turned to the injured rhino reported near the eastern acacia grove, a young male with a deep gash on its flank, likely from a territorial dispute. The wound needed monitoring to ensure it wasn't becoming infected. By 9 o'clock, the sun had transformed from benevolent life-giver to merciless oppressor. Heat waves distorted the horizon, creating phantom lakes that disappeared upon approach. Mr. Makonde's shirt clung to his back, dark patches of sweat spreading across the khaki fabric. The vehicle's air conditioning had given up years ago, and the open windows offered little relief, merely circulating the scorching air. The acacia grove appeared in the distance, its flat-topped trees providing precious shade in the otherwise exposed landscape. Mr. Makonde's experienced eyes scanned the terrain, quickly spotting the rhino, resting beneath the largest tree. The massive creature lay on its side, its breathing visible even from a distance. "There you are, old warrior," Mr. Makonde murmured, bringing the vehicle to a stop 50 meters away. He reached for his binoculars, examining the animal carefully. The wound looked angry and red, but no worse than yesterday. Still, he needed a closer look. With practiced movements, Mr. Makonde gathered his field kit and stepped out into the punishing heat. The ground radiated warmth through the soles of his boots as he slowly approached the rhino, his footsteps deliberate, and his voice a low, soothing hum. The rhino knew him. They had a history spanning years, and merely flicked its ears in acknowledgement. "Easy now, mzee," he whispered, using the Swahili term of respect for an elder. "I'm just checking on you." The rhino's skin felt like sun-baked leather beneath his gentle touch. Mr. Makonde knelt beside the animal, examining the wound with careful fingers. So focused was he on his task that he almost ignored the first twinge in his chest, a sharp, insistent pressure that quickly blossomed into searing pain. His vision blurred, the savanna tilting sideways as he clutched at his chest. The medical kit slipped from his fingers, scattering supplies across the dusty ground. Mr. Makonde fell to his knees, then collapsed onto his side, the earth's heat pressing against his cheek. "Help!" he gasped into his radio, the word barely audible. "Eastern. Acacia." Elijah and Musa were monitoring a pride of lions when the faint call came through. Something in the broken quality of the voice made them exchange alarmed glances. "Ole balbalala." "That's Mr. Makonde," Elijah said, already turning their vehicle toward the eastern section. "Something's wrong." They found him curled beside the rhino, which had shifted position, as if trying to provide shade for the fallen man. Mr. Makonde's breathing came in short, painful gasps, his dark skin ashen with shock. "His heart medication," Musa realized, searching the old ranger's pockets. "It's not here. He must have forgotten it." Elijah was already on the radio, calling for emergency medical evacuation. "Hold on, Mzee," he urged, cradling the older man's head. "Help is coming." The rhino watched with what seemed like concern, refusing to leave despite the commotion. It was as if the creature understood that its caretaker now needed care himself. The medical room at the reserve headquarters buzzed with frantic energy. Doctors worked tirelessly, their faces grim with concentration as they fought to stabilize Mr. Makonde. Outside, staff gathered in anxious clusters, whispering prayers to various deities, kachers. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression told the story before his words could. "I'm sorry," he said simply. His heart was too damaged. "He's gone." A collective grief descended upon the reserve, heavy as the approaching evening. Mr. Makonde had been more than a colleague. He was their elder, their teacher, their living connection to the land's history. Plans for a traditional funeral ceremony began immediately, honoring both his indigenous heritage and his lifelong service to the wildlife he had protected. Dawn broke with uncharacteristic gentleness, as if the sun itself were showing respect. Mr. Makonde's body, wrapped in traditional cloths of vibrant colors, lay on a wooden platform in the central courtyard. Staff members, local villagers, and conservation officials gathered in solemn circles, their songs rising and falling like the contours of the savanna. Elijah was midway through his eulogy when the murmurs began at the edge of the gathering. Heads turned, and a ripple of alarm spread through the crowd. A male lion, massive, golden and scarred, was approaching the ceremony. Instinctively, people reached for weapons, but Musa raised his hand. "Wait," he commanded. "Look at how he moves." The lion showed none of the predatory tension typical of an attack. Instead, it walked with deliberate dignity, its amber eyes fixed on Mr. Makonde's body. The crowd parted, a mixture of fear and wonder on their faces, as the lion approached the platform. With grace that belied its enormous size, the lion circled the platform once, twice, 3 times. Then, in a gesture that would be recounted for generations, it lowered its great, maned head in what could only be described as a bow. "Asante," Elijah whispered, recognition dawning in his eyes. "It's Asante." 15 years earlier, Mr. Makonde had found a lion cub caught in a poacher's snare, its paw mangled and infected. Against all protocol, he had treated the cub himself, nursing it back to health, before releasing it back to its pride. He had named it Asante, "thank you," in Swahili for the privilege of helping it. The distinctive scar on its right flank was unmistakable. "He remembers," Musa said, his voice thick with emotion. "After all these years, he remembers." The lion maintained its vigil, allowing people to approach and share in the extraordinary moment. Some wept openly, others stood in reverent silence, but all recognized the profound connection unfolding before them, a testament to Mr. Makonde's special bond with the creatures he had dedicated his life to protecting. When it came time to carry Mr. Makonde to his final resting place, a grassy knoll overlooking his beloved savanna, the lion fell into step behind the procession. The sight was otherworldly. Humans carrying their fallen comrade, followed by one of nature's most fearsome predators, now a peaceful participant in their grief. At the gravesite, as Mr. Makonde's body was lowered into the earth, the lion let out a roar that echoed across the plains, not a sound of aggression, but one of loss. The vibration seemed to touch something primal in everyone present, bridging the divide between human and animal in shared mourning. Elijah and Musa placed a simple stone marker at the head of the grave. Carved into it was an image of a ranger with animals gathered around him, a fitting tribute to a man who had spoken their language. The lion remained after the humans had retreated, standing sentinel as the African sun began its descent. Just before dusk, it raised its head and roared once more, a sound so powerful it seemed to make the very air tremble, before disappearing into the gathering darkness. The reserve suspended all non-essential activities the following day, declaring it a day of remembrance. Throughout the day, people made pilgrimages to the grave, leaving flowers, trinkets, and prayers. Each visitor returned with the same report, fresh lion tracks circling the grave. In the days that followed, Asante was spotted regularly near the burial site, sometimes lying in the grass nearby, sometimes standing as if on guard. The behavior was unprecedented, drawing researchers and wildlife experts who struggled to explain what the local staff already understood. This was a manifestation of grief, of remembrance, of connection that transcended species. Elijah and Musa took up the mantle of their mentor, continuing his conservation work with renewed purpose. Each week, they would visit Mr. Makonde's grave, sharing news of the reserve's happenings, as if he could still hear them. Often, they would find evidence that Asante had been there before them, paw prints in the soft earth, flattened grass where the lion had rested. "He taught us that conservation isn't just about protecting animals," Elijah reflected one evening as they watched the sunset from Mr. Makonde's grave. "It's about recognizing that we're all connected in ways we barely understand." As if in confirmation, a distant roar echoed across the darkening savanna. Asante, still remembering, still honoring the man who had once saved him, now keeping eternal watch over the guardian of the Serengeti.